An engineer is giving a lecture at the local college. The lecture hall is completely full, with a line out the door of people trying to get in. From the outside of the building, the audience could be heard erupting with laughter, applause, oohs and ahs, and gasps of surprise. A man walking by sees the line out the door and hears the commotion coming from the lecture hall and decides to see what is going on. He gets as close as he can to the front and asks one of the students trying to get in what the lecture is supposed to be about. Well, an engineer is in there giving a speech entitled "The Mechanical Properties and Shear Strength Analysis of Joints Fastened by Means of Metallic Slugs Compressed by Pneumatic Tools," the student replied. The man's mouth dropped open in disbelief. This whole crowd in all that noise for something that sounds like a snooze fest, he asked. The student replied, "Oh, don't let the name fool you. When it comes right down to it, it is simply riveting." A retired man purchased a home near a high school. He spent the first few weeks of his retirement in peace. Then the new school year began. One afternoon early into the first semester, 3 loud young boys came down his street, beating merrily on every bin they came across. They then did so the following day and the day after that, until finally the retiree decided it was time to take some action. The next afternoon, he walked out to meet the boys as they banged their way down the street. Stopping them, he said, "You kids are a lot of fun. I used to do the same thing when I was your age. Will you do me a favor? I'll give you each $1 if you'll promise to come around every day and do your thing." The boys were more than happy and continued to bang the bins every day on their walk home. After a week, the old man walked out and greeted the kids again. However, this time he didn't have a smile on his face. "This recession's really putting a big dent in my income," he told them. "I'm gonna have to cut it down to 50 cents a day to keep you kids banging the bins." The kids were obviously unimpressed, but they accepted the reduction in payment and continued their afternoon activities. A few days later, the man approached them again. "Look," he said, "I haven't received my retirement checks yet, so I'm not going to be able to give you more than 25 cents to bang on the bins. Will that be okay?" "That's it?" the drum leader exclaimed. "If you think we're going to waste our time beating these around for 25 cents a day, you're nuts. No way, mister. We quit." And the man enjoyed peace and serenity for the rest of his days. A university lecturer is struggling to please his wife in the bedroom. He notices that a student in his class, Andre, is always speaking to the female students and seems very popular with the ladies. One day after a lecture, he approaches Andre. "Things haven't been great in the bedroom with the wife, and you seem to be popular with the ladies. Do you have any advice for me?" "Of course," Andre smiles. "Here's what you need to do. Before you make love, you must take out your manhood and bang it on a table 3 times. Then you will make love like never before, and your wife will surely be satisfied." The lecturer rushes home, excited to please his wife. She's in the bathroom, so he decides this is the perfect time to try the trick. He takes out his manhood and whacks it on his desk 3 times. From the bathroom, he hears his wife shout, "Are you back again already, Andre?" At school one day, little Johnny's teacher asks the class to use the word contagious in a sentence. Cindy raises her hand. "Yes, Cindy." She answers, "I was at the dentist's office with my mom, and she said not to play with the toys in the waiting room because the other kids were contagious." "Very good, Cindy," the teacher said. "Anyone else want to try?" Samantha raises her hand. "Yes, Samantha." She answers, "My dad tells me not to yawn because then everybody else yawns. He says yawning is contagious." "Excellent work, Samantha. Very creative," the teacher praises. "Okay, one more volunteer." Little Johnny raises his hand. "Yes, Johnny?" "Well," he says, "I was helping my dad in the yard last week, and we saw the neighbor painting his house. He was using a small brush, so I asked my dad, 'Daddy, why is he using such a small brush?' And he said, 'I don't know, son, but it's gonna take that contagiousness.'" A university lecturer is struggling to please his wife in the bedroom. and he notices that a student in his class, Andre, is always speaking to the female students and seems very popular with the ladies. One day, after a lecture, he approaches Andre. Things haven't been great in the bedroom with the wife, and you seem to be popular with the ladies. Do you have any advice for me? Of course, Andre smiles. Here's what you need to do. Before you make love, you must take out your manhood and bang it on a table 3 times. Then you will make love like never before, and your wife will surely be satisfied. The lecturer rushes home, excited to please his wife. She's in the bathroom, so he decides this is the perfect time to try the trick. He takes out his manhood and whacks it on his desk 3 times. From the bathroom, he hears his wife shout, "Are you back again already, Andre?" A Nobel Prize-winning mathematician is traveling from university to university on a speaking tour by limousine. After several engagements, the mathematician and his driver are having dinner, and the driver says, "I've heard your speech so many times, I think I could give it word for word." The mathematician accepts the challenge, and they switch places for the next speech. The driver dresses like the professor, and the professor dresses as the driver and sits in the back of the auditorium. The driver gives the speech flawlessly and opens up the floor for questions. Usually there are none, but one of the students at the university has a very large ego and decides to attempt to stump the Nobel Prize winner. After the student asks his question for 10 straight minutes, the driver laughs and says, "That question is so simple, I'll let my driver in the back answer it." It was the days of the Old West when an Indian walked into a cafe with a shotgun in one hand, pulling a male buffalo with the other. He says to the counter guy, "Want coffee?" "Coming right up," is the reply, and he gets the Indian a tall mug of coffee. The Indian drinks the coffee down in one gulp, turns and blasts the buffalo with the shotgun, causing parts of the animal to splatter everywhere, tosses down a coin for the coffee, and walks out. The next morning, the Indian returns. He has a shotgun in one hand, pulling another male buffalo with the other. He walks up to the counter and says again, "Want coffee?" This time, the guy is ready. "Whoa there, fella," he says. "We're still cleaning up your mess from yesterday. What was all that about anyway?" The Indian smiles and proudly says, "Training for an upper management position." Not surprisingly, "Huh?" came the reply. "Yeah," he says, "come in, drink coffee, shoot the bull, leave a mess for others to clean up, and disappear for the rest of the day." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how modern management theory began. 4 Catholic women are sitting in a cafe sipping their tea, talking about their great sons. Soon it begins as a contest to see who has the best son. The first woman proudly declares, "My son is a priest. When he walks into a room, people call him Father." The second woman replies even more proudly, "My son is a bishop. When he walks into a room, people call him My Grace." The third woman, thinking she wins, replies, "My son is a cardinal. When he walks into a room, people say My Eminence." The fourth woman says nothing but sips her tea quietly. The 3 women stare at her and then ask her what is so special about her son. With a smug look on her face, she replies, "My son is a 6'5" muscular man with a chiseled jaw and arms as big as pipes. And when he walks into a room, all the women say, 'Oh my God.'" 2 men, Jim and John, are walking their dogs when they pass by a restaurant. "Let's go in and get something to eat," Jim suggests. "We can't," responds John. "Don't you see the sign that says no pets allowed?" "Oh, that sign?" says Jim. "Don't worry about it." Taking out a pair of sunglasses, he walks up to the door. As he tries walking into the restaurant, the host says, "Sorry, no pets allowed." "Can't you see?" says Jim. "I am blind. This is my seeing eye dog." "But it's a Doberman Pinscher. Who uses a Doberman Pinscher as a seeing eye dog?" the host asks. "Oh," Jim responds, "you must not have heard. This is the latest type of seeing eye dog. They do a very good job." Seeing that it worked, John tries walking in with his Chihuahua. Even before he can open his mouth, the host says, Don't tell me that a Chihuahua is the latest type of seeing eye dog. John responds angrily, "You mean they gave me a Chihuahua?" The owner of a seafood restaurant sends one of his sons undercover to his rival's restaurant. The owner tells him to get a job as a cook and figure out the recipe for his rival's famous clam chowder. The first day, the son comes home with a basic list of ingredients that the rival uses. They try making it, but it doesn't turn out the same. The owner sends him back. The second day, the son comes home having watched the rival chef prepare the chowder. They try again to make it, and it's close, but the consistency is off. It's too watery. They try to figure out what they're doing wrong, and the son realizes that he was distracted for a minute while the chef did something. He must have added a secret ingredient, one not on the list while you looked away, concludes the owner. He sends his son back for a third day, this time telling him not to take his eyes off the chef for a second. The son comes back the next day excited. "You'll never believe what I saw," he says. He did have a secret ingredient. It's a piece of paper. A piece of paper? Yeah, he keeps a stack of printed paper in the kitchen. It's a bunch of Wikipedia articles he's printed out of various movies. When he makes the chowder, he tears out the synopsis of a movie from one of the articles and puts it in. It's the strangest thing, but that's the secret ingredient. "Ah," says the owner, "the plot thickens." An old woman tells her husband that if he walks across the kitchen floor after she mops again, she's going to kill him. The next time she mops the kitchen floor, he does it again. He gets the kitchen floor dirty and tracks water into the living room. She does as promised. Without saying a word, she goes to their bedroom, gets his pistol out of the closet, and shoots him dead in his recliner. Then she calls 911 and tells them, "I told my husband that if he walks through the kitchen after I mopped, then I would kill him. He didn't listen, and I shot him." Emergency dispatch immediately sends an ambulance for the husband and a squad car for the wife. The chief of police hears about the call shortly afterwards and thinks it's a rather strange story, so he drives to the house. When he gets there, his officers are still waiting outside. He asks, "Officers, why haven't you gone inside and arrested the woman?" They reply, "Sir, we can't go in now. The kitchen floor is still wet." A man wakes up after a night of drinking to see a single red rose on his bedside table. Beside the rose is a glass of water, 2 Advil, and a note from his wife. The note says, "Hi honey, the pills are for your headache. When you're ready, come down to the kitchen and I'll fix your favorite breakfast. Love you." He also notices that he's still in the clothes he was wearing last night and that they aren't very comfortable. He goes down to the kitchen to find his wife humming happily to herself and dancing around in her apron. Upon seeing her husband, she dances up to him and gives him a loving kiss and says, "Go wait in the dining room. Breakfast will be ready soon." So he goes and waits in the dining room. The man's son is also sitting there. He quietly asks his son, "Hey, do you know what's up with Mom?" The boy looked up and said, "Well, Dad, do you remember coming home drunk last night? You were pretty out of it. You went upstairs and crawled in bed with Mom. Well, you were still in your jeans and shirt, and Mom didn't think that was very comfortable, so she decided to help you get undressed for bed. She couldn't, though, because every time she tugged on your shirt, you would push her away and yell, 'Get off me, lady, I'm married.'" Several years ago, Andy was sentenced to prison. During his stay, he got along well with the guards and all his fellow inmates. The warden saw that deep down, Andy was a good person and made arrangements for Andy to learn a trade while doing his time. After 3 years, Andy was recognized as one of the best carpenters in the local area. Often, he would be given a weekend pass to do odd jobs for the citizens of the community, and he always reported back to prison before Sunday night was over. The warden was thinking of remodeling his kitchen and, in fact, had done much of the work himself, but he lacked the skills to build a set of kitchen cupboards and a large countertop, which he had promised his wife. So he called Andy into his office and asked him to complete the job for him. But alas, Andy refused. He told the warden, "Gosh, I'd really like to help you, but counterfeiting is what got me into prison in the first place." Bert, at 75 years old, always wanted a pair of soft spike golf shoes like Freddie Couples, so seeing them on sale after his round, he bought them, and he was so delighted with his purchase that he decided to wear them home to show the missus. Walking proudly into the house, he sauntered into the kitchen and said to his wife, "Notice anything different about me?" Margaret, at age 73, looked him over and replied, "Nope." Frustrated as all get out, Bert stormed off into the bathroom, undressed, and walked back into the kitchen completely naked, except for the new golf shoes. Again, he asked Margaret, a little louder this time, "Notice anything different now?" Margaret looked up and said in her best deadpan response, "Bert, what's different? It's hanging down today, it was hanging down yesterday, and it'll be hanging down again tomorrow." Furious, Bert yells out, "And do you know why it's hanging down, Margaret?" "Nope, not a clue," she replied. "It's hanging down because it's looking at my new golf shoes." Without missing a beat, Margaret replies, "Shoulda bought a new golf hat, Bert." In the human biology class, the teacher was explaining the anatomy of the human body and decided to give the students a creative assignment. "All right, class," the teacher said, "for today's task, I want you all to draw an anatomical diagram of the female reproductive system. Make sure it's detailed and accurate." Most students got to work immediately, sketching diagrams on their sheets. However, one girl blushed and looked down. Noticing this, Johnny, sitting next to her, smirked and raised his hand. "Sir," he called out loudly, pointing at her, "she's cheating. She's copying from down." A young man graduated from the University of Arkansas with a degree in journalism. His first assignment for the newspaper that hired him was to write a human interest story. Being from Arkansas, he went back to the country to do his research. He went to an old farmer's house way back in the hills, introduced himself to the farmer, and proceeded to explain to him why he was there. The young man asked, "Has anything ever happened around here that made you happy?" The farmer thought for a minute and said, "Yup, one time one of my neighbor's sheep got lost. We formed a posse and found it. We all screwed it up and took it back home." "I can't print that," the young man exclaimed. "Can you think of anything else that happened that made you or a lot of other people happy?" After another moment, the farmer said, "Yeah, one time my neighbor's daughter, a good-looking girl, got lost. We formed a big posse that time and found her. After we all screwed her, we took her back home." Again, the young man said, "I can't print that either. Has anything ever happened around here that made you sad?" The old farmer dropped his head as if he were ashamed, and after a few seconds, looked up timidly at the young man and said, "I got lost once." A university student wanted to sit next to one of his teachers at lunch. However, the teacher looked at the student with an arrogant face and said, "A swan shan't be friends with a pig." "Then I shall fly on," answered the student with a smile. The teacher was clearly vexed by the cheeky reply and decided to do everything in his power to fail the student at the exams. At the oral exam, he gave the student the hardest questions, but the student had amazing answers for everything. Therefore, hoping he could still fail his victim, the teacher asked him a trickier question. You're walking on a road and you find two bags. One contains gold, the other cleverness. Which bag do you choose? The gold. Unfortunately, I don't agree. I'd choose cleverness because that's more important than money. Everyone would choose what they don't have, says the student. The teacher turns red, and he's so angry he writes ass on the student's paper. The student leaves without looking at the paper. However, he returns shortly, gives back his paper, and says, "Excuse me, sir, you did sign my paper, but you forgot to give my grade."
Last week, we took some friends out to a new restaurant. We noticed that the waiter who took our order carried a spoon in his shirt pocket. It seemed a little strange. When the waiter brought our water and cutlery, I noticed he also had a spoon in his shirt pocket. Then I looked around and saw that all the staff had spoons in their pockets. When the waiter came back to serve our soup, I asked, Why the spoon? Well, he explained, the restaurant's owners hired Anderson Consulting to revamp all our processes. After several months of analysis, they concluded that the spoon was the most frequently dropped piece of cutlery. It represents a drop frequency of approximately 3 spoons per table per hour. If our staff are better prepared, we can reduce the number of trips back to the kitchen and save 15 man-hours per shift. As luck would have it, I dropped my spoon and he was able to replace it with his spare. I'll get another spoon next time I go to the kitchen instead of making an extra trip to get it right now. I was impressed. I also noticed that there was a string hanging out of the waiter's zip on his trousers. Looking around, I noticed that all the waiters had the same string hanging from their flies. So before he walked off, I asked the waiter, "Excuse me, but can you tell me why you have that string right there?" "Oh, certainly." Then he lowered his voice. "Not everyone is so observant. That consulting firm I mentioned also found out that we can save time in the restroom. By tying this string to the tip of, you know what, we can pull it out without touching it and eliminate the need to wash our hands, shortening the time spent in the restroom by 76.39%. I asked, "After you get it out, how do you put it back?" "Well," he whispered, "I don't know about the others, but I used the spoon."
Several men were in the locker room of the gym when a cell phone on a bench rang and a man put it on speaker and began to talk. Everyone in the room stopped to listen. "Hello?" "Hi, honey, it's me. Are you at the club?" "Yes." "I'm at the shops now and found this beautiful leather coat. It's only $2,000. Is it okay if I buy it?" "Sure, go ahead if you like that much." "I also stopped by the Lexus dealership and saw the new models. I saw one that I really liked." "How much?" $90,000. "Okay, but for that price, I want it with all options." "Great. Oh, and one more thing. I was just talking to Jane and found out that the house I wanted last year is back on the market. They're asking $980,000 for it." "Well, then go ahead and offer $900,000. They'll probably take it. If not, we can go to the extra $80,000 if that's what you really want." "Okay, see you later. I love you too much." "Bye, I love you too." The man hung up. The other men in the locker room were staring at him in astonishment, mouths wide open. He turned and asked, "Anyone knows whose phone this is?"
A 10-year-old boy heard some screaming and rustling coming from his parents' room. Thinking there is something wrong, he rushes in and sees his dad sweating and panting and his mom turning red with embarrassment. "What are you doing?" asked the boy. "Playing poker," replied the dad. "Oh, but what's mom doing here?" The dad thinks about it and replies, "She's my wild card, and you have to have a wild card to play poker." Satisfied, he leaves the room. Halfway down the hall, he hears similar screams and sounds coming from his grandparents' room. So he bursts in and sees his grandpa and grandma both naked and holding each other. "Now what are you doing?" asked the boy. "I'm playing poker," said the grandpa. "And what about grandma?" The grandpa thinks about it and replies, "Well, she's my wild card, and you have to have a wild card to play poker." The boy turns and goes back to his room. The house fills with screaming and groaning. The dad and grandpa run into the hallway and open the little boy's room where the sounds are coming from. "What are you doing in here?" asked the dad. "I'm playing poker," said the boy. "But you need to have a wild card to play poker," said the grandpa. The boy ponders on this and answers, "Not if you have a good hand."
A man is tossed off an ocean liner and ends up on a desert island. There are 2 other men who were living on the island, so the man pitched a house and stayed waiting to be rescued. After 2 weeks, the other 2 men go and take a bath in the springs, shave their faces with cut glass, and comb the rats out of their hair. The new man asks, "What are you doing that for?" The 2 old-timers tell him that once a month they swim to the other island and get with the chimpanzees that live there. The third man says, "Are you nuts? Call me out, I'm not that desperate." So the 2 men swim over and come back before nightfall. Another month goes by, and the 2 men do the same bathing, shaving, hair combing, and swimming over to the island.
By 3 months, the new islander decides he's gonna go and check it out. The other two guys say, "Okay, we knew you would come around. It gets pretty lonely here." So all 3 men wash, comb their hair, cut their beards, and swim to the other island. The last man sees the 2 men getting with a couple of chimpanzees, so he searches around and finds a willing partner and starts making out with her. The other 2 men start rolling around on the ground, screaming and laughing uncontrollably. The new man is confused. What the hell is wrong now? The 2 men in unison say, "You picked the ugly one."
A man boards a plane and takes a seat. As he's getting settled, he notices an incredibly beautiful woman walking down the aisle, and she's heading straight for him. To his surprise, she takes the seat right next to his. Eager to break the ice, he nervously asks, "Business trip or vacation?" She smiles and replies, "Business. I'm attending the annual Sexual Studies Convention in Chicago." The man's eyes widen. This stunning woman is going to a convention on sexual studies. Trying to stay calm, he asks, "So, what's your role at the convention?" She turns to him, still smiling, "I'm a lecturer. I share my extensive personal experiences and facts about human sexuality." He swallows hard, intrigued but a little flustered. "Like, what kind of facts?" "Well," she begins, "for example, Native American Indians are known to be the most passionate lovers. Jewish men are the best at satisfying women, and surprisingly, Southern rednecks are the ones who last the longest in bed." She says this last part with a little blush, clearly embarrassed. Then she adds, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't be talking to you about all of this. I don't even know your name." The man smiles, extends his hand, and says, "Tonto Goldstein, at your service. But my friends call me Bubba."
A man walks into a bar and asks the bartender, "If I show you a really good trick, will you give me a free drink?" The bartender considers it, then agrees. The man reaches into his pocket and pulls out a tiny rat. He reaches into his other pocket and pulls out a tiny piano. The rat stretches, cracks his knuckles, and proceeds to play the blues. The bartender pours the man a drink on the house, and he puts the rat and piano away. After the man finished his drink, he asked the bartender, "If I show you an even better trick, will you give me free drinks for the rest of the evening?" The bartender agrees, thinking that no trick could possibly be better than the first. The man reaches into his pockets again and pulls out the tiny rat and tiny piano. The rat stretches, cracks his knuckles, and proceeds to play the blues. The man reaches into a third pocket and pulls out a small bullfrog, who begins to sing along with the rat's music. While the man is enjoying his beverages, a stranger confronts him and offers him $10,000 for the bullfrog. "Sorry," the man replies, "he's not for sale." The stranger increases the offer to $25,000 cash up front. "No," he insists, "he's not for sale." The stranger again increases the offer, this time to $50,000 cash. The man finally agrees and turns the frog over to the stranger in exchange for the money. "Are you insane?" the bartender demanded. "That frog could have been worth millions to you, and you let him go for a mere $50,000? "Don't worry about it," the man answered. "The frog was nothing special. You see, the rat's a ventriloquist."
4 older men are walking down a street. They turn a corner and see a sign that says, "Old Timers Bar. All drinks 10 cents." They look at each other and then go in, thinking this is too good to be true. The old bartender says in a voice that carries across the room, "Come on in and let me pour one for you. What'll it be, gentlemen?" There's a fully stocked bar, so each of the men orders a martini. In no time, the bartender serves up 4 iced martinis, shaken, not stirred, and says, "That's 10 cents each, please." The 4 guys stare at the bartender for a moment, then at each other. They can't believe their good luck. They pay the 40 cents, finish their martinis, and order another round. Again, 4 excellent martinis are produced, with the bartender again saying, "That's 40 cents, please." They pay 40 cents, but their curiosity gets the better of them. They've each had 2 martinis and haven't even spent $1 yet.
Finally, one of them says, "How can you afford to serve martinis as good as these for a dime apiece?" "I'm a retired tailor from Phoenix," the bartender says, "and I always wanted to own a bar. Last year, I hit the lottery jackpot for $125 million and decided to open this place. Every drink costs a dime. Wine, liquor, beer, it's all the same." "Wow, that's some story," one of the men says. As the four of them sip their martinis, they can't help noticing 7 other people at the end of the bar who don't have any drinks in front of them and haven't ordered anything the whole time they've been there. Nodding at the 7 at the end of the bar, one of the men asks the bartender, "What's with them?" The bartender says, "They're retired people from Florida. They're waiting for happy hour when drinks are half price."